All right, folks. So we are now going to be taking a look at repetition, having a loop, so that we can repeat code over and over again. We actually already have a loop. We have the draw function. It's automatically looped, and it's a special function that processing is calling over and over again at a particular speed, not the maximum speed that the computer is capable of, but at a certain rate, which is determined by your monitor's sort of ability to refresh itself. And I don't think that, I don't know, I could be wrong. Processing might support faster monitors, but as of my knowledge, it supports up to 60 frames per second. So in other words, it calls the draw function 60 times in a second if your hardware can handle it, and it slows it down automatically if your hardware cannot handle it. So that already is a loop. And actually, we could stick this face inside of here. You saw it in the last video, what happened. But what if I don't? What if I do not refresh like the background? Then we'll see like a bunch of faces just like, wah, just like coming out, and like they kind of stick around, right? They're sticking there. I kind of want to like just adjust this. Like there's a bit of too much of a gap there. You mind if I just make that quick change? That is the face here. I want to make this maybe like 10 or something, or maybe just 0 will be fine, and 0 here. I'll make these ones 0 as well. I just want to have all the range of places available. Yeah, there we go. So now we got like millions of crazy faces just kind of piling out there. So you can do it this way, but what if you just wanted to do it all at once in like one frame? You'd like to put out a whole bunch of faces. So the way to do that is to use your own loop. You can make your own loop. So I'm going to get rid of the draw function loop, and we're going to just work in this up for a bit. So one way of making a loop is called the while loop. While, like this, while. You can see it turns green, so it's a built-in thing. It's a lot like if. So an if statement, we've seen this a lot already. You can say if a certain condition is true, whatever this condition is. If this condition is true, then, hey, make this block of code run. Like this. This is an if statement. So, whatever this condition is, it could be x is greater than 7. That's an if statement. It chooses whether to do this code or not do this code. So, a while loop is similar, but what happens is, for a while loop, it's like an if. It checks this condition, and if this condition is true, it does this code. And if this condition is false, it does not do this code. However, the difference between a while and an if is that a while will then, after, say this condition is true, it will do this code, and then it will come back and check the condition again. And if the condition is still true, then it will do this code again. And then it comes back and checks the condition. If the condition is still true, it'll do it again, and again, and again, and again, until this condition is false. That's why it's called a loop. You can see it sort of like it does this line of code, it does this line of code, it goes back to this line of code, it does this line of code, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. So it's sort of looping around, doing something over and over again. Now, what kind of condition can we put in here? There's a whole million different kind of ways to do this. I'm going to use just a simple counting variable. I'm going to make an int called count, and I'm going to start count at 0. And I'm going to make it a local variable because I might have other loops in other places. So I'm just going to put it in here. I don't need count in any of these things. So I'm just going to make it a local variable so I don't clutter up my global variable space. But, it's up to you. You could put it as a global variable. So now, my while is going to be as long as count is less than 100. Let's say I just want to keep on going until I've got 100 faces. So if I run this right now, it'll go forever, right? Like I'm at 0. 0 is less than 100, so draw the face. And then it will go back and be like, is 0 still less than 100? Oh yeah, and it will never be anything but less than 100 because 0 is less than 100. So this loop will be an infinite loop. And if you run infinite loops, you'll see nothing really happens and it just kind of hangs. And you might be like, what happened to my program? So be careful about infinite loops. Do think about that carefully. If you see like it's like, this is gray, sad screen, there's a good chance you made an infinite loop. So how can I make this loop not infinite? Well, I can change count in my loop. Watch this. Count equals count plus 1. I can say, hey, every time I do this loop, let's add 1 to count. And that's why I call it count, because we're counting 1, 2, 3. When I first start at 0, 0 is less than 100, so it draws a face, and then it adds 1 to count. So now count is 1. Next time it does it, 1 is still less than 100, so it draws another face, and then it makes count 2. And see where we're going with this? Eventually it's going to get to 99. Add 1 to 99, we get 100, and then 100 is not less than 100. So it then stops the loop. So this is what makes this one not infinite. And if I run it, you'll just see 100 faces all just thrown out there onto the screen in a lovely, lovely way. There it is. We now see all the faces all over. So, this while loop is a nice one. You can just change this to choose how many faces you want. At some point, I put 1,000 and it'll all do it, no trouble. It'll make 1,000 faces. We can't really see all those faces, though, because they're kind of taking up a lot of space. Our faces take up too much spaces, so we could put 1,000,000 here, but it wouldn't look much different. So that's a typical kind of while loop that you can use. Now, what if we wanted to plan it out a little bit better? What if we wanted to make a pattern where we maybe make rows of faces? That would be pretty cool. So what we can do is, instead of randomizing these things, we could maybe choose to keep some of them the same. Maybe I just want to randomize the color, and I want to make a little bit of a pattern. So instead of using a count variable, I could make an X and a Y variable. So I'm going to get rid of the count. And what I'd like to do is kind of tile out my faces. Do you know what I mean by tile out the faces? I don't really have a good example, but I'd like to have a row of faces, followed by another row of faces, followed by another row of faces, and sort of just have them nice and evenly spread out. So I would like to keep on going. Maybe while I'm going to do a row, and then another row, and then another row. So what I'll do is maybe just start with making the first row. Let's just make the first row. So let's say we'll draw a face at X and Y. And let's just make them a pretty reasonable size. Let's just make them maybe 0.5. And I'm going to set my X to be, we'll start maybe at 50 and Y at 50. And what I'll do is, I'll make this loop. I'll keep doing this as long as X is less than whatever the width of our project is, 800. And then what I can do is I can change X. So each time I draw a face, I'll just add on to X. X equals X plus 100, maybe. I'm not sure what the actual size of the face is. Let's take a look and see. Well, that's a little bigger than I thought. So maybe I'll shrink my face down and adjust my numbers. But see how I made a row of faces? So maybe I'll make it 0.25, and maybe I'll make this, well, is that going to just kind of look better? Oh, that's pretty good. I think maybe a little bit more of a gap would be nice, though. Maybe 150. Hey, that's looking good. Okay, so I'm just kind of playing with it. So what's happening here is my X starts at 50, and that's right here. That's for this face. So is 50 less than 800? Oh yeah, it is. So then it draws a face at 50, 50, and it's that size. And then that's where I get this face. Then it adds 150 on 50. So we jump to 200. Is 200 less than 800? Yes. So we repeat again. The while loop goes again. So it draws it at 250. And that's where we got this face. Then it adds on 150, so now it's going to be 350, and 350 is still less than 800, so it draws this face, and so on until it gets to here. Then it adds 150 onto this one, it gets to 800, and 800 is not less than 800, so then it stops. So how do I get the next row? So the next row down, I would like to make my condition. I want this loop to keep going. So I'm actually going to say if X... I'm going to make an if statement here. I'm going to say if X is maybe greater or equal to 800, because I'm not actually sure how that math's going to work out. Adding 150 to 50, do I get to 800 or do I get to 850? I don't know. I have to think about it. But I'm just going to say if I go past the border, that's my width, right? That's how wide my screen is. If I go past that, I'm going to reset X. I'm going to say X goes back to 50 again. But then I'll say Y equals Y plus 150. Yeah? You feel me? That's going to be only happening when I get to the end of the screen. When my row gets to the end of the screen, then I'm going to snap back to the beginning and go down a row, and then it'll go again. Unfortunately, this is an infinite loop. I will keep on going because I'll never get to x equals 800. As soon as I get to something close to it, I suddenly set it back to 50. So now I'm going to use if y is less than, 600, I guess, the height of my screen. So then I should get multiple rows. And there you go. Now I get this kind of nice tiled out look to creating these beautiful faces. And I need a little bit more space on the bottom. Maybe I'll just make my size like a bit bigger, maybe 750 or something, 650, just to like get the borders nice. So I got this like gallery of beautiful, colorful faces now. And again, like it would be really cool to put in some more randomness. So I'd love to see what you do with this. So let's see. Maybe if you could, show me a tiled out, view of your faces, and if you could also add in some additional randomness. I don't know what you'd like to do, but here's some suggestions. One suggestion would be, what if you were to, randomly position, the eyes as opposed to like necessarily having them in this formation? What if you put them like at a random height? Maybe just two eyes, and they're at different heights. Maybe they're at different sort of spacings. What if you chose like a different amount of teeth, a random amount of teeth? What if you changed how the hair is spaced out? What if you made them like rounded rectangles, but the radius was random as well? So that, they weren't always the same amount of roundiness. Experiments and see what you can come up with and create a little gallery of random faces that include your own additional fun random features that you've built into it. Okay, so that'll be a checkpoint. That'll be something I'll come around and take a look at soon. And I hope you have a lot of fun with this stuff. We're doing some really powerful stuff, so don't hesitate to ask questions as we go. This is a while loop with an if statement in it. It got pretty wild in this video, so if you're not too sure about what's going on, call me over. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Okay, thanks everybody. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you're having fun too. I hope you made some cool looking stuff. Okay, talk to you soon.